Good afternoon, and thank you, members, for joining us for this webinar. Welcome to the PSSF monthly webinar series. My name is Gumbo Njoroge. I'll be moderating this session. And this afternoon, I'm joined by my two colleagues, Douglas Asanyo, who works with us in the Benefits Administration Department. And we are also joined by Mr. Solomon Kogo, who is from our fund administrator, CPF Financial Services. So thank you very much, members, for joining us for this session. I just want to mention that we are recording this session and is also live on our YouTube platform. So for the benefits of others who will not manage to join us today, they can access the recording at a future opportunity. So thank you very much. Again, if you're joining us for the first time, we have had several webinar series over the last couple of months. And in the last few months, we have mostly addressed issues on member contributions and just the basics about the institution. If you are joining us for the first time, the PSSF is a registered pension scheme established under the Public Service Superannuation Scheme Act of 2012. And our members are drawn from the Teacher Service Commission, the Public Service Commission, and also from the disciplined service, including the National Police Service and the NYS and the Prison Service. So thank you for joining us today. So this afternoon, we want to tackle the topic: what are your retirement benefits? What are the options when you retire? How can you access your benefits when you retire? And what will be the process? Where do you begin? And how can you monitor your contributions? So this afternoon's session is structured into two phases. So in the first session, we'll have a presentation by Mr. Douglas Asanyo, just a general presentation giving us an overview of the process of accessing your benefits in terms of where you begin, what are your obligations as a member, and what are the obligations of your employer. He'll also tackle the frequently answered questions on in this area. And then after that, we'll have Mr. Solomon Kogo from the fund administrator also making a presentation. And his presentation will now go into the specifics of what is it that a member should do when they retire in terms of accessing their retirement benefits. But before I invite them to make their presentations, I just want to share with us some two announcements in terms of what is it that your pension scheme has been doing in the last 1 month, and what are we projecting to do in the next few weeks in terms of member engagement. In August and September, we had the public participation for the PSSS Amendment Bill 2024 and the proposed PSSS Regulations 2024. Members, you may have noticed that we invited you for public participation forums across the country. And we also had a virtual public participation session. So if you didn't manage to attend, a recording of the same is available on our website. Last week, we participated at the Nairobi International Trade Fair. It also provided us an opportunity to interact with you during that activity. So most members who attended and who visited our booth were able to check their statements. They were able to engage with our officers on location if they had any personal queries that they wanted addressed. Those questions were addressed. Last week, we also partnered with the National Police Service Commission for member sensitization, particularly those working with the National Police Service. We were in 3 counties. We went to Machakos, we were in Kiambu, and in Kajiado County. So during that activity, we were able to reach about 2,000 members, primarily drawn from the National Police Service. And we are also working closely with other institutions such as the National Youth Service. We have a countrywide member sensitization, which is planned for later this month with NYS. So we'll be going around the country in all the 47 counties, especially where the NYS has base or where their stations are, engaging with the members drawn from the NYS. It will offer us an opportunity to interact and address specific questions from those members. Later this month, we'll also be participating in the second annual Pensions Conference and Expo, which is hosted by the Nation Media Group. It's an industry event to be held at the KICC. So members, if you get an opportunity, we'll also be exhibiting at that Pensions Expo. If you get an opportunity, please pass by that expo and interact with us. So thank you very much, members, for attending this afternoon session. I now want to invite Mr. Douglas Asanyo to make a presentation and then hand it over to Solomon Kogo from CPF Financial Services. We'll take your questions, members, at the end of the session. We'll have a Q&A session. But in case you have very burning questions, you can share those questions with us on the chat. We'll address them as we proceed. Thank you. Karibu sana, Mr. Douglas Asanyo. I'll stop sharing so that you can share on your end. Asante.
Thank you, Laban, for that good introduction. So we'll go straight now to benefits administration. I guess, members, you're aware that this is a contributory pension scheme where an employee contributes a portion of their basic salary, whereas also the employer contributes something towards a pension fund, now the Public Service Superannuation Scheme, to manage those contributions or savings towards your retirement so that when you exit the service, you will be able to get your benefits from the Public Service Superannuation Scheme. So the contribution rates are 7.5% for the basic salary of an employee, and the employer contributes 15% of the basic salary of that employee. So today we'll only look at the benefits administration, more specifically the contributions, and then the benefits, or how to access the benefits at the time of exit. So I'll just do an overview of the process, then I'll allow the fund administrator to take us through the process of now accessing your benefits. So the key players in this industry, the pension sector, is the trustees. Trustees, we have a board of trustees at the Public Service Superannuation Scheme, and those trustees represent members and also represent employers. And they are appointed as per Section 10 of the Act. So we have the employers. Then the key person or the key player is the contributor, who is the member, the members. Then in terms of now benefits administration, we have the service providers, more specifically the administrator, who does the day-to-day operations of the scheme. And we have the regulator. As a pension scheme, a contributory pension scheme, we are regulated by the Retirement Benefits Authority. So I will touch on the employer obligations. And also now let's go to the employee obligations. An employer is expected to deduct and remit the pension contributions of that member and remit it to the custodian. Custodians in this case are the banks. The three contracted banks are KCB, Cooperative Bank, CFC Stanbic, and NCBA. So once the employer deducts, they have to remit to the custodian the member's monthly contribution from the member's monthly salary, not later than 10 working days after the end of the month in which the contributions fall due. For example, the contributions for August must come in before 10th of September. And the contributions for September that are now due must be remitted to the custodians before or by 10th of October. Then the employer should also ensure that the government, which is currently remitting on behalf of employers, remits the employer contribution, which is 15% of the member's basic salary. So you may note that the 15% is double what the member is contributing, making a total of 22.5% of the member's basic salary. That is what goes into the custodian's account to be managed by the scheme, so that at the end of the day, you have enough savings to give you good retirement benefits. And then finally, the employer must ensure that the employee or the member of the scheme completes and submits enrollment and beneficiary nomination form. This form is where a member nominates beneficiaries to who will access his savings, retirement savings, in the event of their death in service. So every member is required to complete this form and submit to the scheme, so that in the event of death, there is no delay in settling those benefits to your beneficiaries. So the member also has his obligations, where, as I've said, the employer is to submit that form. So as a member, you are required to complete and submit that enrollment form to your employer so that it can get to the scheme. And always ensure that whenever necessary, you update that beneficiary nomination form, because if your status change or you wish to change those who you wish to benefit from your retirement savings, then you can update your form. It should be as updated as you will wish your retirement benefits to be shared in the event that you die in service as a member. And as a member also, you are required to ensure that the employer deducts and remits the correct member's contribution to the scheme on a monthly basis. By this, I mean that you should be able, as a member, to look at your payslip at the end of the month to ensure that your money has been deducted. That is the 7.5%. And also, you will be able later on to check with the scheme to access your statements that are provided to confirm the correctness of those contributions. And in the event that there's an error, then you notify the scheme for corrections. And you're also required to participate in an annual general meeting and any other scheme activity. More specifically now, member education and outreach programs like what we are currently doing. So this is a virtual engagement. So that is a member education program where members are encouraged to participate and get to know how their retirement savings are being managed. Then let me look at the withdrawal or access to retirement savings. On exit from the service, a member will access their retirement savings as provided in the relevant legislation, depending on the forms of exit, which include retirement, dismissal, resignation, and any other as provided for in your respective HR policies and procedure manuals. So you may note that in this scheme or in a contributory scheme, you will not be denied any of your retirement savings depending on the form of exit, meaning your savings are yours regardless of how you exit. Even in dismissal, you still access your benefits, but that will be explained further by the fund administrator when I hand it over to him. A member will make a request to the scheme on a prescribed form, the benefits form, and attach a copy of the national ID together with proof of exit from the service, which will be submitted by the employer. And upon receipt of that completed form for the benefits, then the scheme will process and ensure that we make payment within 30 days. So we always try as much as possible to make payments within 30 days or even shorter. We'll endeavor to make it even shorter so that it is possible that once you exit, before 30 days are over, you have your benefits. Now, before I hand it over to the fund administrator, I'll wish to handle a few questions which we've been receiving through our social media platforms, and specifically even when we go to physical engagements with members. Those questions that I'm going to tackle are related to our topic today. And the first one is, what is the maximum percentage can I contribute as additional voluntary contributions? I earlier said that the contributions by a member is 7.5% of their basic salary, and the employer contributes 15%. In this case, where a member wishes to boost their retirement savings on top of the 7.5%, then you can make a contribution not based on a percentage, but absolute figures, because it is the amount that you wish you can remit to the scheme to boost your retirement savings. So any amount is, you can contribute any amount as long as, of course, you meet the third rule. And this is actually, we encourage this because you also benefit as a member from the tax reliefs, because you may note from your pay slips that pension contribution is deducted before your pay is subjected to pay as you earn, the tax. And question 2, will I access my money in case I leave public service before the retirement age? Yes, you will access. And there are several ways of accessing. If you've not attained the retirement age and you're leaving service, you can access up to 50% of your retirement savings. And also, if you're moving from the public service within the public service, now employers who are recognized in the Public Service Superannuation Scheme Act, and you're changing employment even within the public sector or any other private sector, as long as they have a registered scheme, then you will be allowed to transfer all your savings to that other scheme. Once you notify the scheme, the transfer will be done within 30 days. And the next question, do I have an option of not contributing to the scheme? This is also a question we've been receiving, where other members are asking if they can go back to non-contributory DB scheme that we had before 2021 January. Members, this scheme is a statutory scheme for public sector employees, specifically teachers, civil servants, and members of the discipline service. So it is by law that we became members of the scheme, especially those who are below 45 years of age, as at the commencement date of 1st January 2021. And once you become a member of PSSS, then you cannot opt out into another scheme. And to make it clearer further, all public service employees must belong to a pension scheme. So there are those who remained in the non-contributory scheme, that is a pension scheme, though it's a defined benefit scheme, not contributory. Those of us who moved to PSSS, it's a contributory scheme. So you can either belong to one scheme provided by your employer. However, in addition to this, if a member wishes to do additional voluntary contribution to boost their savings, they can do so. Those who are willing to give or to opt into other pension schemes, unless you make an individual plan, we have individual pension plans. But we always encourage to have your retirement savings in PSSS because it's a scheme you can trust, which has sound financial policies that ensures that your money is invested well and you get a good return. And which will enhance your savings for your retirement benefits. The next question I want to tackle is, can I access all my savings as a lump sum when I leave or retire? Yes, these are your contributions. Once the employer makes his contributions, and once you do your contributions, then as a member, you have 22.5% of your basic salary coming into the scheme. And we also invest. So all the money is yours. But then you cannot access the entire savings when you exit, because the law provides that upon exit or on retirement, a member will access up to a third of, of his retirement savings as a lump sum. And then the two-thirds or whatever remains after their third then will be utilized to give you a monthly pension for life. And that will depend on the option you choose when you exit the service. So the essence of the purpose of establishing a pension scheme is for that scheme to provide a regular income in retirement. That is why the law does not allow for a member to withdraw all their savings as a lump sum. Number five, are my contributions being invested? Are we getting dividends or for our contributions to PSSS? Yes, dividends are being credited to members. Unlike the SACCOs, unlike other schemes, a pension scheme will invest contributions and they will get investment income from those investments. And once a return is declared at the end of each financial year, whatever percentage is declared as an investment income is then credited to each member's individual retirement savings account. And then that now will form the opening balance for the next financial year. So in this case, I say the opening balance for the next financial year is your total contributions, employer contributions, and the investment income. Or even the additional voluntary contribution still is invested and gets it attracts the investment income as declared by the scheme, because the investment is done from the total contributions that comes into the custodian's account. Are my savings secure with the scheme? Very secure. This is a regulated scheme, regulated by the Retirement Benefits Authority. And the scheme invests through qualified financial fund managers who are contracted through a competitive process, and that contract runs for 3 years. And upon the expiry of the 3 years, then we'll evaluate their performance, and then we retender again so that we can continue that way. And that fund manager is guided by the investment policy statement, which was developed by the Board of Trustees of PSSF. So we normally give a report to the Retirement Benefits Authority, being the regulator, to ensure so that the regulator, being the referee or the supervisor, can see that the members' interests are being taken care of and their money are safe. So there's that. Now the service providers work together for the best interest of the member. And in addition to that, the Board of Trustees, they are not just Board of Directors, but a Board of Trustees. And we know from the meaning of a trustee is a person that is entrusted with assets of another person to hold them until such a time when the beneficiary will be able to access them. So in this case, the Board of Trustees of the Public Service Foundation Scheme is holding the assets of members in trust and investing so that when the member exits, they will be able to access their money. And I've earlier said that you will be able to access your money within 30 days of exit from the service. So up to this point, I come to the end of my short contribution. I'll now wish to hand it over to Mr. Solomon Kogo from the CPO Financial Services Limited, who is our fund administrator, to take us through the process of accessing our retirement benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. So as you mentioned, we'll now hand it over to Mr. Solomon Kogo. Mr. Kogo, proceed.
Yes, thank you, Douglas and Gumbo. As you've heard, my name is Solomon Kogo from CPF Financial Services Limited. We are your administrator. I don't know whether my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Dear members, I'd like to take you through how you can access your benefits. But before we do that, we need to inform you of how you can access your statements. There are two methods of how you can access your benefit statements. One is using a USSD code, *378#. If you register and log in using that code, you will be able to follow instructions that are provided there and access your benefits contribution statements. You can also use a web portal, members.psss.or.ke. If you log in using that portal and register as a member, you'll be able to access your benefit statements. Now, I would like to clarify that the benefits payable under the scheme cannot be accessed until you leave service. If you exit service, then you can access your benefits either through resignation, dismissal, early retirement, or normal retirement. For early retirement, this is the age between 50 years and 60 years. For normal retirement age, that is 60 years. And then for those who are in the discipline services, the National Police Service, the Kenya Prison Services, and also NYS, they can access their benefits on a rule we call 12-20-year rule, where if an officer has served for more than 12 years, but below 20 years, and they wish to exit service, they can access their retirement benefits under that rule. You are also eligible to access your benefits on what we call late retirement. And late retirement is a period when you leave service, but defer payment of your benefits until a later date after 60 years. For example, you may opt to access your benefits at age 65 so that you can enjoy the tax incentives that are provided for members who access their benefits after age 65. I'll mention the tax incentives that are available later on in this presentation. You can also access your benefits if you leave service through ill health, as long as you provide proof of your medical condition that has been certified by the medical board and the employer has approved. You can also, your beneficiaries can also access your benefits in the event of death, where the scheme can pay your accumulated credit to your nominated beneficiaries. So it's important that you keep the scheme informed of any changes regarding changes of your personal circumstances to ensure that the scheme holds the current information regarding your beneficiaries. Now, as Douglas mentioned earlier, the benefits payable under PSSF comprises of employee contribution, and you've been told that the rate of contribution is 7.5% of basic salary. The employer contributions at a rate of 15% of basic salary are also payable. For members who make additional voluntary contributions, they can access those contributions as lump sum, and they do not form part of the commuted pension, which is 1/3 of total credit at retirement, and then the 2/3 is converted into a monthly pension. So for members who make additional voluntary contributions, those contributions are paid directly to the member in full, and they do not form part of the commutation. The benefits are also payable depending on how the scheme has performed over the years. So it includes the return on investment during your membership. So your total benefits is summed up as employee contributions plus employer and investment income. And for those who make additional voluntary contributions, they also access those benefits at return. Now, what is the procedure for accessing your benefits? Once you leave service, you'll be required to complete a claim form. That claim form can be obtained from the Human Resource Office, your PSSF Secretariat, or even from ourselves, the administrator. Once you complete that form, you'll be required to attach mandatory documents to be able to process that claim. For example, we need confirmation from the employer that you have left service, because these benefits are not payable if you are still in service. You'll be required to complete the form, provide all the information that is required in that form. That includes your bank account details, where you want your money to go, how you want to be paid, because there are several options of how you can access your benefits, and I'll be able to touch that later in this presentation. You'll also be required to attach your national ID, a copy of your PIN certificate, because when we are processing benefits that have been taxed, we must pay the income, the tax that has been held to the income tax department. So we require your PIN certificate and proof of your bank account details. That proof can be provided either through a bank statement or a copy of ATM card. Now, for death cases, it's mandatory that the beneficiary provide proof of death through a death certificate. They'll also be required to provide the same documents that have been listed above there. So how do you access your benefits before retirement age? Either through resignation or dismissal. You are eligible to access up to 50% of your accumulated balance in your account, and the remaining 50% will be deferred until you attain retirement age. However, if you resign and move to another employer who has a registered retirement benefit scheme, you can transfer the 50% that has been deferred to your new employer's scheme, or you can retain it under PSSF. You can also open a personal pension plan if you resign and go into Juakali to start your personal business. You can open an IPP, individual personal pension plan, with one of the providers, so that you can continue saving for your retirement. If you do that, you can amalgamate all your benefits together by transferring what has been retained in the PSSF scheme to your personal pension plan. Now, for employees who resign and immigrate to another country on a permanent basis, they can access up to 100% of the accumulated credit as lump sum, as long as you provide evidence of permanent residency of another country. Otherwise, members, remember, these are your retirement benefits, which you are supposed to access when you retire. So we encourage members not to consider retaining all their benefits while they are still active, so that you can continue saving for retirement and access these benefits when you really need them at retirement. So you don't have to access the 50% if you don't need to, so that it can continue earning interest and give you a sizable pot at retirement when you really need this money at most. So we try to encourage members not to access these benefits, especially for those who are moving to a new employer, and therefore they continue having some income. So it's not necessary to really withdraw these funds, because you don't really need them now, but you really need these funds when you attain your retirement age. For members who access their benefits at retirement, and retirement, as mentioned earlier, you can either retire on early retirement or normal retirement, or even ill health. At that point, you are eligible to access up to a maximum of 1/3 of your accumulated credit as lump sum. Then the balance 2/3 will be paid to you in form of pension, monthly regular income. For members who make additional voluntary contributions, as mentioned earlier, you can access your voluntary contributions in full without subjecting it to the commutation formula of 1/3. So basically, that means that your mandatory contributions are calculated based on that formula 1/3, then plus for members who make additional voluntary contribution, you'll get an additional payment for all the contributions you've made voluntarily, including the investment income. So the balance 2/3 is paid in form of pension, and that pension can be either be paid through an annuity with one of the insurance companies in the market or through an income drawdown. You can convert your lump sum, the 2/3 into monthly pension paid from the PSSF or an income drawdown of your choice. How does that work? The actuary will look at how much you are converting to pension, and depending on your needs and how the market is, you can probably say you want to access roughly say 20,000 shillings a month, and the actuary will be able to work out and see how much you've accumulated, how long can you withdraw that money before you exhaust it. Therefore, for income drawdown, it requires your regular engagement with the fund to monitor how the investment is performing, to be able to adjust your monthly income depending on how investments are performing. But for the annuity option, that is safe, and once you sign up, you get an agreed amount payable for life, and you don't have to worry about how the investment market is performing. In the event of death while still in service, your beneficiaries will be able to access your accumulated balance under PSSF, and they'll be able to also get an additional benefit paid by the employer through an insurance company of what we call life assurance benefit of up to 5 times of your annual pensionable salary. That is paid by, it's a benefit provided by the employer, so it's not paid within PSSF. So for PSSF, we'll just refund your beneficiaries your accumulated balance up to the point they are accessing. Now, these benefits that we pay are subject to tax. And how is that taxable? First of all, you access up to 60,000 shillings for every complete year you've been a member of the fund. And whatever is above the 60,000 is subject to tax as shown in the table there. For example, the first 400, any amount above this, the tax-free lump sum will be taxed as follows. The first 10,000, the first 400,000 will be taxed at 10%. The next 400,000 will be taxed at 15%. Any amount above 800,000, the next 400,000 will be taxed at 20%. The next 400 at 25%, and any amount above 1.6 million will be taxed at a rate of 30%. I'll show you some samples at the end of this presentation of the impact of the tax on your benefits. Now, for those who access their retirement benefits before retirement age, the tax regime there is a bit punitive. For example, any amount above the tax-free lump sum, if you look at the previous tax table, it's a bit lenient because the first 400,000 is taxed at 10%. But for members who access before retirement age, the first 288,000 is taxed at 10%. Then the next 100,000 is taxed at 25%. Any amount above 388,000 will be taxed at 30%. Therefore, this is a bit punitive, and that's why we encourage members not to access their benefits before retirement age, because there is a heavy tax burden to penalize those who access their benefits before the intended time at retirement. Now, for persons with disabilities, in addition to the tax-free lump sum that is provided within the retirement benefits regulations, the income tax allow members to access up to 1,800,000 tax-free in addition to the tax-free lump sum that is provided by the scheme. So the condition there is that you must apply for tax exemption on disability basis. Once you obtain that, then we can pay you an additional 1.8 million tax-free. So let's take an example of someone who is retiring at normal retirement age or early retirement age, and they've accumulated an amount of 3 million shillings. So how is that amount taxed? First of all, we'll commute the lump sum that is payable at retirement, which is 1/3 of the total credit. In this case, it's 1 million shillings. How is that 1 million shillings taxed? Assuming that member has been in the scheme for more than 10 years, as mentioned earlier, you are eligible to access 60,000 shillings for every year you've been in the scheme. So in that scenario, a member who has been in the scheme for more than 10 years will access 600,000 shillings tax-free. From that 1 million, the taxable amount will be 400,000. And how is that 400,000 taxed? The first, because it's only 400, it will be taxed at 10%. And therefore, a person who is accessing 1 million shillings will pay a tax of 40,000 shillings and access a net amount of 960 shillings. Now, comparing that amount with someone who is accessing before retirement age, look at the tax there. In the previous example, someone who is accessing at retirement is paying a tax of 40,000 shillings, whereas for someone who is accessing before retirement age will pay slightly more tax, 56,000 shillings 800. And that's the reason why we are telling members and advising them to wait to access their benefits when they really need most at retirement, because the tax advantages and also the timeliness of accessing those benefits when you really need them most. Now, if you go back to this computation here of someone who is accessing retirement benefits at retirement, you'll note that 2/3 will be paid in form of monthly pension. So for someone who has accumulated 3 million, they'll access 1 million as lump sum, and the balance 2 million will be paid in form of monthly pension. That 2 million is not taxed. It's converted into a monthly pension. And if we give an example of someone purchasing an annuity using 2 million shillings, with the current prevailing market rates, they can get up to 20,000 shillings every month payable for life. I hope we are together up to that point. So I'll end it there and invite any questions later on after I hand over to the moderator for guidance. Gumbo, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kogo, for that detailed presentation. Members, at this point, we want to take your questions. We invite questions. You can raise your question through the chat, or you can unmute your mic and speak. So you can exercise any of the two options. Share your questions on the chat or unmute your mic and speak. Over to you, members with questions. Maybe Mr. Kogo, at this point, you can stop sharing your screen.
Yes, I'm working on that. Just a minute.
Okay. There's a question that had been raised on the chat by Mr. Nyaundi. Mr. Nyaundi was asking what is the procedure of submitting the beneficiary nomination form. So as we wait for other members to raise questions, maybe Douglas, if I could bring you along to just emphasize the submission of the beneficiary nomination form. Yes, we have told our members to download it on our website. So what are the forms? I mean, what are the options available in terms of submitting this form? Just for emphasis, I know it's on the chat. The response has been availed on the chat, but for members who will be reviewing this footage later, they may not get access to the chat. So maybe you can just highlight that as we prepare to take more questions. Douglas.
The forms, thanks, Njoroge. The forms are available on our website. Once a member downloads that beneficiary nomination form, you complete it, then forward it in a duplicate. A copy will be retained in your records at your employer, and the original will be submitted to the scheme by your employer. Or if you do, as a member, you do a delivery, then you can have it, the copy delivered to your employer so that it can form a record of your employment records and the original to be submitted to the scheme. We are located at CBK Pension Towers, first floor.
Thank you.
Njoroge, you are muted.
Sorry about that. I was saying that members, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand so that we can usher you to ask the question. And you can also share the questions on the chat. Thank you. Douglas, I think we are okay. I think the reaction from the member shows that they are okay with the submissions that you have made and also the presentation by Mr. Solomon Kogo. Then if we don't have any questions, we may end the session at that point. Sorry, I see we have kindly repeat the USSD code and the portal for checking the statements. So the USSD code is *378 hash, *378 hash. If you have not used the USSD code before, if it's your first time, you may need to register. So exercise that option when you go to *378 hash, there's an option to register. So register first and then you log in. So the portal is www.members.psss.or.ke. So again, if you go to that portal, if you are visiting it for the first time, you may need to register. So after the registration, you can log in. So when you log in, you can access your contribution statement. You can also access your audited statement for the financial years 2021, 2022, and the financial year 2022, 2023. Mr. Kogo may have mentioned this, that in those detailed audited statements, you will access your allocated investment income for the 2 years. So Mr. Nyaundi, you have those options in terms of accessing your statements. Thank you. If there are no further questions, we'll end the session at that point. Members, take note that you'll be available on phone on the number 0746 111 777. You can call us on that line. You can also text us on WhatsApp via the number 0783 111 777. You can also write to us on email, info@pssf.go.ke, info@pssf.go.ke. And you can follow our website, that is psss.go.ke, for updates on any activities that your pension scheme has. We are available on social media across all social media platforms. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on X, we are on LinkedIn. So you can follow us on those platforms so that you also get updates whenever we have any activities. We recently moved to the CBK Pension Tower, first floor. So in case you want to walk into the office to make any inquiry, we are at CBK Pension Tower, first floor, and you're much welcome to learn about your pension scheme and your options in terms of retirement benefits. Asante sana. At that point, members, Douglas, Solomon, any closing remarks?
Yes, thank you, Gumbo. Just to reiterate that we are in the process of updating updating members' contributions. It's a continuous process. We are currently updating contributions for the month of September, and soon, once the audited accounts are finalized and trustees declare income for the financial year ended 30th June 2024, we'll be able to credit the members with the income for 2024 and issue benefit statements. So they should be on the lookout in the next quarter. And we encourage members to keep on checking their statements so that if there are any issues relating to contributions that have not probably been posted, they can always check with us and we'll be able to clarify on why there are any gaps, or if we have any issues that the members need to clarify and provide us details to enable us update their records properly, we'll be able to engage them directly. So for those who are accessing their statements, please confirm that even your biodata in the statements are correct, because, for example, the date of birth is critical. If your date of birth has been indicated, say let's say 1976, whereas your actual date of birth was 1968, then that will have an impact because you cannot access your benefits until you actually attain your retirement age. So ensure that the biodata we've provided are accurate. Also, the date of joining the scheme is very key in determining the tax-free lump sum you can access at withdrawal. So that date of joining the scheme is very key. So ensure that the details we have provided in your statements are accurate, so that we can correct if there are any anomalies before you retire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kogo. Douglas, any final remarks?
Mine is to encourage members to continue engaging the scheme. We have a dedicated team to attend to you, to answer to any of your queries. So ensure that you use any of the platforms that are available to you so that you can get the information that you need to empower you as you plan for your retirement. So information is power to the member. The scheme is managed well. Get to know us more, continue engaging with us, and work with your scheme until your retirement when you exit the service. Thank you.
Asante sana, Douglas. Thank you, members, for interacting with us this afternoon. As we had mentioned at the beginning of this session, this is a monthly initiative. So we'll have another engagement at the end of this month or early next month. We thank you for your time and look forward to engaging with you in future sessions. Asante, have a nice afternoon.